we're live. Hey everyone, I'm here with Michael Head, the author for the Threads of Fate series. Hope everyone's having, well, in my case, I'm having a good night. It's midday for Mike, but Mike, welcome.
Hi.
So for those you don't know, Michael, he's one of the authors that I've met at the Guildify Con while I was moderating, and I don't know what it is, man. Just people in the military. As soon as we find out we're, oh, you're military, we hook like that. We started um, chatting, and we're just comparing battle scars. But Mike won at the end. He beat me by a wee bit, and we've been kicking off ever since then. We kind of been messaging each other back and forth as like to sit down and kind of do this. And it's been about a month and a half since we kind of seen each other. But yeah, Mike, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Michael Head. I'm the author of the Threads of Fate and the Wandering Warrior series. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like Q was saying, I am also a veteran of the Army. I did 15 years, and I got tore up pretty good, but I'm still kicking. And that's so in my I got to retire a little early, and so in my retirement, that's what I do. I write books, and they're pretty action heavy. I like to use my experiences from real world, the real world combat experiences that I had, and then apply that to a fantasy setting. And so that's how I use my real world experiences to help my books stand out.
So we got our first comment. We have hello from Aoife. Hi, Aoife.
Hi. She's awesome.
She is. She was actually the first. Her and Rachel were the first people I did the my first AMA with. So you were number 2.
Yeah.
And then Ryan's up next week. So I'm ready for all the sassy comments he has to say. So Mike, you said you kind of use real world experience to write your books. So what exactly? Tell the folks here what genre you focus on.
So my Threads of Fate is specifically in the cultivation genre. Thanks, babe. It's in the cultivation genre, and
I mean, can I get some too? Jeez, I want some. Those cookies?
Yeah, it's cookies. I got cookies. Yeah, I get. So it's in the cultivation genre. So it's very much like Avatar: The Last Airbender. One of the more probably the biggest series in that genre is Cradle by Will White. Another big one is Painting the Mists. Yeah, I would like to think that Threads of Fate is up there in popularity as well. It's also a regressor story, meaning that the main character is pulled back in time and he keeps his memories. And so that's a major aspect of the story. What is a little bit different about Threads of Fate is that the act of him going back in time instantly changes the timeline. So a lot of his past memories don't necessarily equate to instant knowledge. Like he's still going to have a leg up on everybody, but it does not mean that he knows absolutely everything that's going to happen. So that is a twist on the trope that I went with, that I think really makes it stand out. Yeah, these are they're orange cookies with real oranges inside of them.
Oh, so is it like a zest or is it like actual? Oh, dude,
It's got zest.
Some, man. You can't just be.
It's got zest and juice in it.
Just send. Oh, dang. Just making cookies and you don't even get to send me some. All right, well, next time, that's gonna be your tax for next time. But so when you say regressor, is it just so some people, because a lot of people don't know, especially since my book is more omniscient narrator. What type of style would people expect when reading your books? What's the perspective on when reading your book?
So my other series, Wandering Warrior, that's going to be a trilogy. It's the first one is out already. It's Judge, and then the next one is Jury, and the last one will be Executioner. Judge, Jury, Executioner, which that is basically, if you've ever seen the movie Judge Dredd, or Dredd, or read
Yeah,
the comics, it's
with
basically, yeah, with Sylvester Stallone.
yeah, and Keith Urban, depending which
Yeah, or
one.
Keith Urban, yep.
Yeah.
So it's basically, instead of a dystopian future, it's, that premise, but in a fantasy world.
Gotcha.
And so that's a portal fantasy. But
Okay.
in both Threads of Fate and Wandering Warrior, I use first person. And I
Okay.
do that because for me, whenever I'm writing, I have written some third person stories. I helped with Dakota Kraut's Year of the Sword series. I helped out extensively in that series, and so I did some writing in third person with that. And I personally find it a lot easier to slip into the characters if I'm writing in first person. So
Okay.
to me, it becomes a lot more realistic whenever I am when I'm writing in, or it's a lot easier to find the character's voice when I'm writing in first person.
Gotcha. Okay. And you said you use Avatar. I mean, something to compare it to. Is there something, and you also use real world experiences that you had. Is there anything else that you use as that influence your story or gives you ideas when writing these books?
So before I ever wrote my first book, I read well over 100 books in the genre.
Okay.
I think that one of the most important keys to success as an author is to understand what readers' expectations are. And so, being a reader first, that because I was a reader in the genre long before I was an author. Um, like when I was reading cultivation novels, I was reading a lot of badly translated Chinese and Korean novels, and I get it. You're
Sorry,
good.
no, yeah.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
thought it was my dog.
Oh, but so like having a reading those novels, um, you start to build up a knowledge baseline of what to expect, or of what readers' expectations are. And so with those readers' expectations and what the tropes of the genre are, I know, right? And coffee. Oh, where to go?
I might need to go get some. Everyone listening to Michael, I'll be right back.
But yeah, having these, once you have a good idea of what the tropes of the genre are, what reader expectations are, that allows you to in your mind build a story that will be familiar to readers, but then you add your own twist. You add the thing that makes your story stand out. So you are familiar but different, because you
Okay.
don't want to be the same, right? You want to be
True.
you want something about you that makes your story unique and that makes it fun and different. You need to have a reason for people to want to pick up your books. And so
Okay.
for me, that was for my first book, Threads of Fate Reincarnation. That was that was what my wife was bringing by. This one right here.
Gotcha. Yeah, there you go, folks.
Yeah. whenever whenever I wrote that, I had seen a lot of things that it was like, I wish all these books that I was reading, I wish that they did this thing better. I wish that this aspect of these books was better. And a lot of that was, I felt like the fight scenes were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably because most of the authors writing these books had never been in a real fight in their life. Or if they were, it was like in grade school or high school that one time, and so
Okay, fair
as
enough.
opposed to like a real fight. And so, but it was more than that. It was like how the major plot arcs, not just from book to book, but through the overarching plot of the entire series, as well as like the bouncing plots through like 2 and 3 book arcs. Like I just felt like they were not well put together, And by sitting down and writing that out and figuring out how I would want to read that, or read the story that I would want to read.
Right.
That's the book that I wrote. I wrote the book that I wanted to read, and it turns out other people wanted to read it too. So yeah, and that's the advice.
Yeah.
That's the same advice I give a lot of new authors that come to me and they're like, hey, what's, like the number one biggest piece of advice you can give to people? And that's write the book that you want to read. That's the number one. And then number two would be find a way to be familiar but different. And like by being familiar but different, that means you have to do a lot of research. You have to do a lot of reading. You have to understand the tropes. And then you have to figure out a way to be different enough to make your stuff stand out.
So at least here we're going to military terminology here. I don't know if the Army used it, but you guys use SMEs as a terminology, subject matter expert. So essentially, you become a subject matter expert in So you become a subject matter expert in that specific genre. In this case, being cultivation. So that's good. I mean, that's more or less where I'm going on. And after it brings me back to a little bit. When we were done with the stuff from moderation, we actually, we were probably, 30 minutes to an hour afterwards. And you actually sat down with me, kind of pointed me in the right directions. Like, hey, as a new author, you want to do this, this and that, avoid this, watch out for this. And I've been using that advice along with stuff that TJ's been giving to me. And in my opinion, I think it's helped. But it's still a long way to go. I mean, you got at least 5-6 books under your belt. I'm still on number one, so it's just a little bit learning what fits your style. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to learn. And then speak of the devil, look who showed up.
No, why? Hello, Ryan.
Yeah,
I'm. Whoever said they let me out, I escaped. They haven't made a box that can hold me. No.
True. And then I guess this is to one of the comments you said. So massive amounts of swearing and running over goblins with your car aren't enough.
No, usually not. I mean, it depends on your definition of goblins. They are worth 10 points each. So there is that.
There you go.
Depends on how much you level
up. And then let's see, because I also have, I don't know why, but at least with me, when I'm using StreamYard, I can't see all the questions, so I'm looking back and forth. So if you see me doing this, that's just me reading any other questions that I might have missed.
You're good.
On the other feeds. But actually, this is one of the things I kind of want to talk about because me being a new author, I kind of learning terminologies that come with this. So plotter, prancer, and hybrid writers. Kind of explain a little bit to the audience what that exactly that means and where do you consider your type of writing style fits in?
So okay, a plotter, a pantser, and then hybrid. A plotter would be somebody who uses an outline, and whenever they use that outline, usually whenever somebody describes a plotter, there's somebody that uses like a very dense outline. Like when they're outlining, they outline the crap out of their book. Like every chapter is broken down to like this is going to happen in this chapter. This character is going to say this. It'll do this for the, like its purpose is this for the, like say they're using Save the Cat or A Hero's Journey, because there's multiple different types of outlines you can use. A lot of times people mistake a style guide for a genre guide. Really, what we write in is we write in the action genre. So if you type in action genre outline, you're gonna find, in my opinion, much better outline designs. But like if you were using Save the Cat. Save the Cat is basically every Disney movie ever, including Marvel movie ever. Like but the thing is, there's a reason why that style of story is so successful. Because it is, whether we have been trained to like that kind of story as, modern humans, or since we were cavemen sitting around a fire, it was the kind of story that we liked. Whatever it is, I don't know, but that kind of story just has propagated itself, and it has been that way for generations. Like Save the Cat was not something new. It's just somebody finally set it down and quantified it.
Okay.
And so that's why Save the Cat and Hero's Journey are two of the most used, especially in the action genre. And so, and there's a reason they're so successful. There's a reason why I use them. That doesn't mean you have to follow them letter for letter, or like beat for beat. But using them as like a baseline, so that way you're not getting too far off track, and so that way you are meeting certain reader expectations. You're not going to drift too far off from where readers will be able to connect with your story. Because if you lose reader connection, you're going to lose readers. Bottom line. And so that's how come plotters a lot of times have an edge, because plotters have a lot less of an issue with things like writer's block. Because they know exactly what's coming up in the next chapter. But if you ever hear somebody say something like, "Oh, this book felt very formulaic," or "Oh, like I guessed the ending of this book by the time I read the second chapter or the third chapter," or they knew the end before they were a quarter of the way through the book, that was probably a plotter. That is because that is that's somebody that used an outline and they stuck to that outline, and that's all that they did. Whereas a pantser is somebody that they don't know what's coming up on the next chapter either. Like they just started writing. I just had one. My kids offered me a cookie too. I
like one.
Yeah. They're delicious. But no, they just let the story flow, right? Like they have an idea for a story. The characters live in their heads and they just start writing.
Okay.
And what comes out comes out. And they come up with the most original stories. They usually sometimes they are the ones that are the most hit and miss authors, because they are not following any type of plan. And sometimes they may end up with an absolute smash hit. But most of the time they're going to bomb because they are not following any type of formula. And it's really hard for readers to connect because there's no way for them to follow along, because it's, like if you've ever watched a movie where it seems like nothing is ever, like, it doesn't make sense. Things are just jumping around all over the place.
Like a Quentin Tarantino, like Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, something like that. Yes,
Yeah.
that is very much a great example of like a pantser. Like you're over here one place and you're over here the next, and right. And so, like I said, that is very hit and miss. That does not mean it's not successful. Because the ones that are successful are usually absolute smash hits. It takes a lot more work, and it is also much harder to write longer series if you're a pantser, because once you start world building and once you start making rules, as you know, you have to follow those rules.
You have to follow them.
Yeah, and so you have to remember all those rules, and you can pigeonhole yourself. You can write yourself into a hole. And so, and once you've done that, it's hard to write yourself out of that hole. There's an author who's famous for getting into like book 3 or book 3 to 5 in a series, and then he just abandons them and he jumps to a new series. John Ringo. Yeah, he's famous for doing that. Like he's probably got like 6 or 7, maybe even more series out there that he's just not finished. He's just not done. Like he'll get to a certain point where he has written himself into a hole and he just drops them and he starts a new one. And The problem is that he is so good. His stories are so good that people will still pick them up and like they will still read this new series, even though they know they're going to be pissed off and frustrated because it's not going to get finished. Like he's just that good of a storyteller. Like that's
Man, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if my ADHD would be able to handle that.
Yeah. And so what a hybrid author is somebody that takes pieces from both, right? And that's kind of what I am. That's somebody like what I do is I have a loose outline. And so I have like I know what my beginning, middle, and end look like of every book that I write. And like but I do not have a full chapter breakdown.
Okay.
Like I don't have a chapter by chapter outline. I just have a like
this has to happen by this part, this has to happen this part,
yes,
so on and so forth. Okay.
I have a beats or an arc outline where like by the halfway point of the book this has to have happened, and like characters need to have reached this point in the story by here, and I want like in Judge, this one it needed to be a little bit more structured because it's a lit RPG and it actually has like written out levels and stuff. So it's like I want my main character to hit this level by 2/3 of the book. So like that means that I kind of had to like map out. I had an actual timeline of like like okay, by chapter 7 he needed to be here, and by chapter 13 he needed to be here. Like so that had to be a little bit more mapped out. But I leave it pretty open because what I like to do, like I said, I write in first person because that means that to me in my brain the characters are a lot more real. And so I present it gives me room for creativity. And in the outline, so in my outlines, I present the problem to the characters, and then I allow the characters to tell me what's going to happen. So like a pantser, I may not know exactly what's going to happen in the story, but like a plotter, I do know how the story is going to end. I just have to figure out how to get there.
Gotcha. So in my case, which is kind of interesting, so mine is based off of the Dying Breed series with TJ, but my thing is I can't finish my book until he finishes book 4 because my book ends where book 4 where my character's introduced in book 4. So right now we're just like I'm writing. I'm nowhere near finishing, but it's interesting to see because I don't know how me and TJ have been talking, but I don't know how my character is being introduced. So that's kind of where I'm stuck at right now to like thinking for the end. But in the middle, so beginning to middle, I know exactly what's going to go on. It's just that last part, like figuring out, hey, like how's my characters being introduced and where to go from there. Because I mean, honestly, I don't know if I'll write another book. I'm just doing it for fun right now. It's a bit of a project. I've learned marketing. I've learned, all these things that I was like, oh, I'm just going to type away and see where this lands me. But now, I have to be essentially it's entire business, from marketing, hiring the right artist, knowing the right editor, and then figuring out, how to hit my target audience through marketing, knowing like which keywords to put for an algorithm for Amazon or wherever I publish on. So that's it's things that I didn't realize were going to be so complicated yet so necessary to write a book. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when they come into it. But luckily I had TJ to kind of mentor me, like, hey, like this is going to be one, it's a huge resource. It's not just, you have to pay, you're going to have to pay people and deadlines have to be met. If not, then, your book gets pushed back and that could possibly hurt, the outcome of the book at the end. But I'm just like, to me, it just, at least that portion doesn't really matter because I'm just doing it for fun right now. And based off of that, we'll see where it goes. I mean, right now I'm not seeing myself as some a big author. You live off of that, and I commend you for it, because I don't think I'd be able to do that off of this book. But I'm doing it for fun, and we'll see where it lands. But yeah, like it's a real journey, and I don't think a lot of people realize when they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to write a book," and they actually sit down and like look at all the grand scheme of things. One, it's a huge investment, because you're looking at a couple grand per book, and then if you don't have a sponsor or anyone to pick you up, you're taking the bulk of that. So it's just something people should realize when coming into these things, and how
Yeah,
it's going
and
to be.
if you're going to do an audiobook, if you want a big name narrator, like it's like six, seven, eight, nine, $10,000, depending on how expensive they are for narration. Like
Oof.
some of the big name narrators are very expensive.
How much would you be if I hire you, to narrate my book?
Oh, for me, for a narrator, ooh, I don't
Yeah.
know, like at least 25 an hour.
Oh wow. Okay.
That,
Well,
that would cost you.
go ahead.
Yeah, that would cost you at least like what, maybe $200 for a book.
Oof. Well,
Just remember, you get what you pay for.
yeah. Hey, I just want to hear your voice while narrating a spicy
My
scene.
my
Oof.
dulcet tones. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be great at accents. Yeah, I'm great at accents. I tell you what.
Well, you know what? Now that you speak of that, I was you surprised me with your D&D skills. How you came out with that the character with the pipe. What was the name of it?
Oh, he had a cigar. Yeah, he had a
Yeah.
cigar.
So that I was surprised, but you and Kevin.
Oh,
Uh,
Kev Sinclair. He is so
oh,
awesome. Kev is so much fun. Kev is awesome.
was he Gravedigger? He was a
Yeah.
Gravedigger, right? Oh,
Yep.
like I was thoroughly impressed
Yeah.
when you guys both did that. So I don't know, maybe I'll hey Kev, you want to narrate a book or something? Because I would like it was really good how you guys both did that.
Yep.
Let me see if we
No.
have anything. Oh, we do have a couple things. Let's see. So from Ryan. Ryan, yes, that's Facebook is going to censor you because of that. Way to go! Now I'm getting demonetized on YouTube. Now I can't do it anymore. So way to go! Thanks, Ryan.
I'll
And
remember
then
that, Ryan. Plants
not
in your
here. Stop. And then yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you're more you and Rachel kind of have to, because I mean you're co-authors, so you guys have to be on the same page for you guys to get through a book. I'm just me on my lonesome on my whatever, either before I get out of bed, because I'm more productive in the morning. I wake up probably like around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just literally just on my phone just go and start typing on my book for about an hour and a half when I have time. Because this job, well, being in the military and just this job in general, you can't plan, you can't sit down, you can just go with the flow. So whenever I have time, I'll sit down and write. So that's pretty much, yeah, that's how it goes for me.
Yep.
Let me see anything over here. Nope. All right. So let's see. Reading some of the questions that you sent out for me. So right here. How to find a genre suitable for long-term happiness, and how to avoid burnout. So what do you suggest for the readers or for the audience?
Okay, so finding a genre to write in for long-term happiness, that goes back to being a reader first. If you enjoy reading that genre, you're probably going to enjoy writing in that genre. If you are forcing yourself to write in that genre, it's not going to be a good long-term choice for you, probably. It's it's a lot like if you force yourself to do any job, that's
Mhm.
not going to be a good job for you long term. As opposed to, because I wish I could remember the guy's name. Um, maybe it's a Terry Pratchett or Terry Goodkind. I want to say it's one of the Terrys, or maybe it was Neil Gaiman. One of those big authors was like, you should spend for 2/3 of your time writing and 1/3 of your time reading in your genre, just so that way you can stay current with what's going on in your genre. And I was like, wow, that is incredible. You know what I mean? That's an incredible thing to hear and to know, because that means that, if I'm spending 8 hours a day writing, I need to spend 4 hours a day reading in my genre.
Okay.
And so that means that if I were to, let's say I got an offer to write a harem novel, right? Because like, hey, Michael, we want to, we feel like you'd be great for this. We like your writing style for fight scenes. Would you like to pick up a pen name real quick and write this harem? And it sold like gangbusters and it did great. But long term, I would not enjoy that, because I don't enjoy reading. Like I would not enjoy sitting down reading harem novels 4 hours a day every day, on top of having to write it 8 hours a day every day. You know what I mean? Like after a while, that would wear on me. I would not.
Gotcha.
That would not bring me enjoyment.
Makes sense.
And
Makes sense.
yeah, and so I don't know. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with being an author. If you are in whatever, if you're going to be a new author and you're trying to find a genre that you want to write in, it needs to be it needs to be a genre where you can stand out in. And because, like, okay, let's just say you want to write in romance. You write in general romance. That's the most flooded of all genres on the planet. Just flat out romance. Like something like 80% of all books posted on Amazon are in romance. And there is absolutely no way that you are going to stand out whatsoever. And there's no way, unless you're already a big name author, you are not going to make any sales. So you need to find a smaller subgenre. If you were, say, a romance author that was like, werewolf, shifter, vampire hunter, something or other, you know what I mean? Like smaller,
fantasy romance type deal.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like the smaller, tighter, like itty bitty kind of subgenre that you can plug yourself into. Now you can start getting more into a targeted audience, like you were talking about with marketing and how important that is. Like you need to find that tiny little niche where you fit, where you can plug yourself into, where you can try to find an underserved audience, where there's not this, flood of books going into it every quarter. Like every 90 days, there's, instead of there being 10,000 books being dropped into that subgenre, maybe there's only 20. If there's only 20 books being plugged into that one subgenre every 90 days, if you're one of those, if you're book number 21 every 90 days, your books are going to get bought. And so that means, if there's at least, say, 10,000 readers, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if they are all buying every single one of those books that come out in that tiny little subgenre, 10,000 sales of every single book you put out, that starts to build up after a while.
10 at $15 to $20 a book, maybe even more for a hardcover. Let's say 25. The money starts coming in.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, so that's why you have to find that little tiny subgenre that you fit in, that you can enjoy. Don't pick one just because it's small and underserved. You need to pick one that you can also enjoy writing in. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. And if you're miserable, you'll burn out fast.
Makes sense.
And burnout ruins authors. Like I have hit burnout myself, like where I came to the point where I did not even want to look at a computer. I didn't want to touch it. Like I didn't Like looking at a keyboard made me feel nauseous.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't want to, I don't want to write right now. Um, and that's whenever I learned that for me, I cannot write one story for too long.
Mm.
Not only am I a hybrid writer, but I'm also a bouncer. And what that means is I need at least two stories to bounce between. Because if I start to slow down or get stuck or get tired of one story, I need another story to bounce over to and write in. And then I can bounce back to the other. So that way I don't get burnt out with a certain character inside my head.
Gotcha. Okay. So currently, is that kind of what you're doing right now to keep your mind fresh? You jumping between the Threads of Fate and the Wanderer series, or are you just focusing on one series right now?
Right now I'm just focusing on Wandering Warrior. So what I'm doing with that, so with my second book, Jury, that is due very, very soon to editors. So it's kind of like slam time. It's
Gotcha.
due. Yeah, it's due very, 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 very soon. And I'm doing my final pass, my final personal pass. And if you've ever, I recently had to have a surgery. And whenever you're drugged up on pain medications, you should never write because
A lot of mistakes.
you make mistakes. Yeah. And so I've been just going through and fixing things, and what always happens whenever you start noticing mistakes, you're like, hey, you know what? Since I'm fixing this, it would be so much better if I did this too. Oh, and if I'm doing that, I can do this. Oh, and
And
then
then,
I can do this. And
yep.
yeah, and so yeah, what was supposed to be just a quick read through turned into a massive edit, which is my own fault, but it is what it is.
So when you're editing, do you how do you exactly how do you edit a book? So for me and how TJ kind of taught me, and that's the way I kind of essentially I just put it on like an audio read, so like Word document, and it'll read itself, and then I'll just listen to it like okay, and I'll think about it, and if it doesn't sound right, then I add more stuff or take stuff away, or make listen to the flow of the whole thing. So how
That's
exactly
that
do you
that is
edit?
that is a great way to find awkward spots and spots where flow is messed up. Um, for me, the another I hate double words or overuse of a certain word. So
Okay.
like I will do if I'm looking through and I I almost like blur my vision or like I unfocus,
Hmm.
and if I start seeing too many of a word or like you know how words will make a certain shape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the word "the" makes a certain shape on the page, and so
Right.
I let my eyes, if I unfocus, I will see like certain words will have certain shapes, and if I see too many of one shape in a paragraph, I'll be like, okay, then I'll refocus, or I'll focus in on what that shape is, and be like, okay, there's too many of that word. What is that word? And then I'll
Gotcha.
go in and be like, I need to fix that. You know what I mean? And that's just a me thing.
Mhm.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Because whenever you have a narrator who says the word, what was one of mine that I did too much? Excellent. I was overusing the word excellent. I was overusing excellent too much. And another one was devastation. Like, why do I have the
Hmm.
word devastation 116 times in this Word document? Like,
Okay.
That's that's too many. Like I needed to, pull out Ye Olde Thesaurus and start changing. You know what I mean? Like that's just some of the more basic things that I can go through and fix. Another one is another good thing to catch on personal edits is um, like I have my alpha reader is usually my wife or my middle daughter. She's the only one I have that I have three daughters, and my middle one, she's 18, and she actually likes reading in our genres, and
Okay.
the other two do not. But if she'll read, she's really, both of them are really good at pointing out weak spots in the story or places where it bogs down. Like I have a bad habit of I call it getting too deep into the weeds, where like I'm over describing things. And so if I'm over describing things too much, they will point it out to me and be like, "Hey, you're slowing the story down too much here. You need to back off and allow it to continue."
Makes sense. Ooh, someone's in trouble.
Yeah, no, yeah,
You're fine.
Yeah, you're good. Take this to your mom. Yeah. Sorry. It's good.
But no, you're fine. You're fine. We'll just edit that part out. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So when it comes to so when you're doing this type of stuff, so editing, what do you use AI? Because I know that's another big thing that everyone's kind of throwing in there. Hey, use AI to do your edits, or use AI to at least start off the story. How do you think AI is coming into play for writers in all genres? Is it a positive or negative thing that you see?
So with AI, I see that a lot of people are some people are kind of scared. They're kind of getting freaked out because people are worried about AI. Like, first off, artists were freaking out because like AI is going to take over their, like AI art's going to take away an artist's job. And I think that we're quickly seeing that that's not true. Like AI art can quickly produce, I don't want to call it junk art, but like art that is not, it can never be quite right. Like as much as you keep plugging in prompts into an AI art generator, you're never going to quite get the exact thing you want. But it's great at getting you things that are almost what you want.
Hey, part won't be in until either Tuesday or Wednesday. Will be available to be put in at the latest by Wednesday, hopefully by Tuesday. But if you want to leave it there, you can, or you can come pick it up today.
Just leave it there.
Okay, he says just leave it there.
Sorry.
You're fine. Hey, I get it.
Yeah. So, yeah, my car's in the shop, and that's the shop calling.
Okay.
Yeah,
The Lambo.
No, I've got a WRX. I got a Subaru WRX. You know the
Okay,
the rally car racers.
Yeah.
My vent fan went out, which is really bad when it starts getting cold outside.
Yes.
And there's frost on your windshield, and you don't have a way to get heat. So
my baby specifically is a 90. It's a Defender 90, 91. I love that thing to death, and yeah, I'm actually trying to take it to the shop right now, and it's very expensive. Land Rover is very expensive.
Yes.
But yeah, so AI. Sorry, you were getting into cars. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so a lot of people are a lot of artists are very concerned, but like you can never quite get what you want, right? Like, and not only that, but you have all these copyright infringement concerns. And so it can get you close, and it can get you great examples that you can give to a real artist, that will then produce the art that you truly want.
Give it that breath that everyone keeps talking about, the breath to the painting or yeah.
Yeah, okay. Whatever medium that you're using. But so there, I'm not going to name names, but there were some authors that were talking about using AI to write entire books and then just post these books. Use an editor to clean them up and just post these books to try and make easy money on Amazon.
Gotcha.
And that is really shady, right? Super duper shady. And it's also, like I said, it was freaking out a lot of people, freaking out a lot of authors. Once again, the same way that it doesn't quite work for artwork, it's not going to work for books. You cannot use you're not AI is not going to replace true authors. AI is not like Amazon's trying to do this new thing where you can use AI to replace narrators.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same, right? Like maybe if you had a short story that was like less than 5 or 10,000 words, but if you have, a book that is 50 to anything past 50,000 words with a ton of different characters, with or like where you want to add tension with fight scenes and with like
I'm adding emotion. A computer can't tackle that yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, and well, even 20 years from now, it's not going to be the same. And so I think that a lot of people have been very concerned with AI and how it's going to affect our market. And is there going to be an effect? Yes, but it's not going to be enough of an effect to cause permanent harm. Now, using AI is not a bad thing. Like if you are if you want to do some quick research, or I know that I have a lot of friends that have been using AI. It's like for name generators, because one of the hardest things is coming up with names for cities, streets, throwaway characters, one-off characters, things like that. And so you just use it as a name generator for that kind of stuff, or somebody that was not heavily read in the genre was in a group chat a while back that was asking about ideas about monsters, and somebody recommended using AI to come up with use AI and plug in some prompts to give them ideas for some monsters. And yeah, that's a great way to use AI to help you as an author or as a writer of any kind. Just using it for things like that is perfectly fine. But that's about as far as I would go. It would not surprise me if pretty soon there's going to be you're going to have to be signing agreements saying that you used no AI whatsoever in the production of your books, or no part of your books have been written by AI. Like that's probably going to be something that people are going to have to sign. And if it is proved otherwise, you could lose your Amazon account. Just because Amazon does not want to get caught up in any future
lawsuit or litigation.
Yeah, lawsuit or litigation for copyright that AI is going to have come crashing down on its head one of these days.
Well, like you were telling me last time we talked, which is funny because Amazon's using AI or a bot to kind of organize your books. And that kind of that could ruin the market value for your book, because it puts you in a genre that's not quite your genre because of just a couple of words that you've written in there, which we were talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
So I find that hilarious that they're not willing to do that, but they're willing to because at the end of the day, Amazon's going to still make money, but you, the author, that you're trying to. Amazon's realistically the only big publisher like that nowadays, is going through that and doing and limiting you automatically instead of putting you in your actual category wherever you belong. So, man, damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yep.
But it's just, I guess, like you said, just learning how to get to that audience, because once the audience knows you, they're gonna be coming back for more. So that's I guess I do see the pros and cons of the madness. Let me see. I think we actually. So guys, when it comes to these, I like to like the natural flow of conversations, but every once in a while we get to a lull, And Mike was actually nice enough to throw out some ideas, and we've actually just naturally hit a lot of these. So it's just kind of crazy, kind of going through it and how we've just naturally hit most of these. So from here on out, it's going to be, you know, the audience, if anyone has anything else to say, and just me and Mike just having the natural conversation of things that we found out through our time writing, just to make it, you know, a mentor, you know, type deal right now. So that people can, if anyone's writing a book out there and they're interested, you know, learning about that, hey, write this stuff down, write this down, write this down. So just because I'm gonna be writing stuff down, guys. Mike is what I believe a very successful author. Granted, he's in one genre, but you could still don't be afraid to ask people questions, because that's how you develop yourself as an author. Regardless, you can always, you know, listen to people's opinion because they've gone through it before you, no matter what the genre is, because at the end of the day, different genres, you have different genres, but writing the book process is usually the same way, though. You got to sit down and type or write, and then you got to go through the motions of editing and whatnot.
Everybody's got to dig through the same word mines.
Yep. So with that, like, what would you say is like your biggest, well, we kind of said biggest hurdle, but what's the thing that you kind of what would be what's the thing that hits you the hardest when you're like going through a book and you're like, damn, I can't get past this. Like, what do I need to get past this?
So usually if I hit a spot where I'm stuck in any way, and that usually happens whenever I am hitting a place, for me, it's political intrigue. If I'm trying to write any type of political intrigue whatsoever, it's like, how do I write this? Because I'm not a very political person of any kind. I'm very apolitical. I don't do politics. I don't care about politics. But I still want to bring in that aspect in my books. So to do that, a lot of times I get slowed down. I get bogged down. So for me, I will just straight up skip it. I will jump to the next chapter. I will pick up, because I know in my head what's going to happen after this chapter. Like at the end of this political scene, that like it will lead to a fight scene, or it will lead to them running away, or it will lead to them planning a battle, you know, like whatever it may be. Or it will lead with him in prison, you know, whatever it is. Or I will jump to a different series. Like I said, because I'm a bouncer, I'll bounce between stories. And then once I have skipped that part, I can then, and I've written a little bit into that next chapter, I can then go back to where I was and write to that point that I've already written. And so that makes it much easier it's kind of like filling in the blank.
Gotcha.
And so that's just, it's a way that I have found for me that it's like whenever I was working in the NSA, a lot of times you have this piece of intel and this piece of intel, and you're missing this piece. And so whenever you're out hunting for this piece in the middle, you don't know what this piece is, but you'll know it as soon as you hear it. And so if all I have is this, and I'm looking at, like, I need these two here. So I can create this. If I'm the creator, if I'm having problems, if I need A, B, and C, and if I already have A and I'm having problems with B, I'll just create C, and then B will fall in.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say comment a couple things, but I don't know if it's okay to taco shop like that on this platform. Yeah. Whew. But anyways, so from here on out, guys, it's gonna get a little bit just adult oriented, because just some of these things might be a little bit mature, or yeah, just a little bit mature. But for example, Mike, when we talked last, we were having you were kind of giving me advice what to do for adult scenes. So anything that has to do with sex, and that's essentially where my crux is. Surprisingly, and a lot of people who know me, I like to joke with just throwing out spicy jokes every once in a while, or a lot. But it's kind of it's different from joking and then actually writing a scene as to how you want to do it, because from what you were saying is that's where the Amazon bot in particular can kind of mess up with where you're ranking in genres. So
you don't want to get pigeonholed into erotica, because that's where
Correct.
books go to die. Yeah.
So I think I've put it in the right place. It's not necessarily a fade to black, but it's enough for the reader. Okay, we know what happens from here on out, and it's just one scene. It's actually just one scene entire book. I don't think. Excuse me. I'm not going to flood the book with different types of sex scenes. So that's just something another thing for future writers to realize when you're writing this stuff. If that's what you want, then by all means go ahead. Again, just like Mike said, if that's what you're into and you want to write it, by all means. But just you got to come in with that mindset. Hey, if this is what it is, you have to put your expectations at a reasonable level, and don't think you're going to be the next Stephen King. Because again, research is very important. TJ said the same thing. Hey, do your research. Don't. But again, do this for you and not anybody else. At the end of the day. Let's see what else we got here. These are questions that I kind of built from. I wrote a couple questions for you, essentially, me as a baby writer. So we went over that one. What do you find? This actually is like a time management thing. When do you find yourself that you're most productive? Are you a morning person or evening person?
Me personally, I'd say a late afternoon person, early evening, late afternoon, at about that 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. window is whenever I don't know what it is about that time frame. That is just whenever I call it what was it that Dakota called it, the mind palace of spun sugar, right? Because whenever you are in the zone and the words are just going right, that mind palace that you have built is made of spun sugar, and it the littlest thing could snap you out of it, and it will ruin it. But if it is not broken and you are left alone and it is quiet and you are undisturbed or your music playlist is perfect and it just keeps going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can just go that 3 to 7 o'clock window in that 4 hours. I have written more words in that 4 hour window than probably any other time ever. And then I have another window that's from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. if I'm awake, that for some reason I catch a second wind. And it's because it's dark outside, it's quiet, everybody's asleep and in bed, and there's just that, if there's nothing going on, and even the cats aren't tearing my house apart, I can just sit and write. And that's actually that's my time usually whenever I'm working on, if I've got a new project I want to start up, or if I'm outlining.
Gotcha.
That to me, I guess you could say it's my most creative time block. I don't know if you want to call it the dreamy time, but
Gotcha.
that, you know what I mean? Right there in that window.
So for me, I've kind of said this before, but for me, I'm definitely a morning. When it comes into the afternoon, I start to slow down. Even so, at work, I write a lot of reports. I just find myself that second half of the day, I just slow down so much. And I'm not really big. I don't like to. After 3 o'clock, caffeine is a big no-go because I'll stay awake, past my bedtime, 12 midnight. If I have caffeine after 3, but I don't know. In the morning, I have a clear mind, a clear thought. Where I should. The issue is like I only have about an hour and a half to write something, and if I miss it, then I have to wait till the next day. So I've learned to these last 2 weeks in particular. I've learned to like, hey, like, you are going to do this. Stop scrolling through Facebook and open up Google. Yeah. Close Facebook, open Google Docs, and start typing away. I think it was it Wednesday or Thursday? I was just typing on my phone, and my wife's like, "Who are you texting?" I'm like, "I'm not texting anyone." It's like, "You've been typed." I can hear the phone going. Like, I'm not texting anyone. And she turns around, I was like, "Are you writing your book?" He's like, "Oh, okay." Because she thought I feel like the last I guess she was between going to sleep and waking up, and she just hears texting, and I'm like, who are you texting, and why are you texting someone so early? So that's when I find myself the most productive in the morning, like straight up. And I'm not I'm naturally just peppy, so coffee just makes me all jittery and jumpy. So it doesn't really help focus the mind, at least for me.
Gotcha.
We have I missed this question from Aoife. I'm sorry, Aoife. Favorite cookie, snack, drink, or when writing? What's yours?
So for me, it's I drink an insane amount of coffee. I know I drink too much. Although I do bounce. I do have decaf coffee for after about 2 p.m. I don't always do decaf. I probably should do decaf more often, but but yeah, whatever. I mean, when I was in the Army, you know those silver bullets. You know what I'm talking about? Silver bullet coffee makers that make like 30 cups of coffee in one go. I drink like at least one of those a day, sometimes more. When I was on ship,
the military had a bad. What's tobacco, alcohol, and caffeine in the military? Those are like the I don't know, the food pyramid of the military. That's what the military literally run. Oh, and tornadoes. That's what the military runs on. Back when I was deployed, if any deployer, I haven't seen it in a while, but anyone knows the word rip it. If you hear the word rip it, it's these little metal. It looks like a great value Red Bull.
Yeah, like
anyone in the military knows that. Oh my God! For 90, I don't think it was even 99 cents for the big can, and it would just for hours.
Yep. When I was deployed in Iraq, you got these little like 8-ounce cans for free from the DFAC. And
well, they don't do that anymore. So when I was deployed, they literally that year they cut it off. They're like, no more. Yeah, for the military. That was what, 2016? 2016. Yeah, they just stopped doing that because they're like, this is not good. Rip-its were really bad, and I think they're still actually being sold, but the military doesn't buy them as far as I'm aware anymore.
Gotcha. Well, and so it used to be Red Bulls, and they were free. Yeah. Red Bulls were free in the DFAC when you were deployed until somebody drank so many they killed themselves. They died. They drank I can't remember, it was 16 or 26 Red Bulls whenever they were on tower guard in like 1 8-hour shift. So in 8 hours, they drank, like I said, it was either 16 or 26 because they went in with a garbage bag and there was a whole shelf of Red Bulls and they just scooped it into the garbage bag. And when they were up on tower, they just kept cracking them and drinking them,
I'll hydrate myself.
Yeah, and they died. Yeah. They actually died. And they were like,
one Red Bull has the recommended dose of caffeine for the whole day.
Yeah. And this dude killed himself. I want to say it was a Marine because that was on Cedar Two, the one across from Talil Air Base down by Nasiriyah. Mm-hmm. And that was like in 2004, 2005 time frame. But yeah, it was right after that. They were like, okay, no more Red Bulls. We're switching to Rip-Its because they don't have, it's a smaller can. It went from 12 ounces to 8 ounces, and they're not as concentrated caffeine. And it did not matter. We still were like,
Yeah,
okay,
you're still. Yeah,
well,
just
now
more.
I
Now we'll just drink more. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, the military works in mysterious ways, man. It's just like we're all just one mindset was like stay awake because I mean, realistically, what people don't realize is you fall asleep at work, someone taps you in the head and you're good to go. You do that in the military, you can get arrested. So it's just things people don't realize when you're in the military how different things work. So people just try to stay awake during your shift with anything. So yeah.
And I would smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Like two packs a day. I was ridiculous. But you could buy a carton of Miamis for $1. Who wouldn't be smoking 2 packs a day? A carton for $1? Yeah, we gonna get this. And then Royales, which were the menthols, it was like $3 for a carton. I mean, yeah, we gonna get.
And you're getting hazard pay, you're getting duty pay, tax free. If you're re-enlisting during that time, you get a nice bonus that's tax free. So people don't realize,
Yep.
the military has its vices. Let's see what else.
So many bad decisions.
Yeah. Yep. We'll see what Ryan has to say here. Michael's favorite.
Oh yeah, he's talking about. So I did an interview with Brian.
Okay.
And it was to mess with Brian. Amanda, my wife back there, you can see her back there. She's doing her homework.
Amanda.
She made me an entire Thanksgiving dinner. And so just because I had in the ones before, the interview before that I had done with him, I just had cookies. And he was like, he made this big deal about it. And so and he just kept talking about it. And I was like, I got something for you. So the very next interview that we did with him, where he did a book reading, he read like the first chapter of Threads of Fate Reincarnation.
Okay.
While he was reading the first chapter of my book, I spun the camera around and I had an entire Thanksgiving dinner laid out. And he had to read the first chapter of my book while I was eating an entire Thanksgiving dinner.
So cranberry or no cranberry?
Oh, I like cranberry.
Okay, that's the way to do it. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm a fat kid at heart, so I'll eat just about anything.
Yeah, me too. Oh, and Kyle. Hey, Kyle. It's been a while, man. I haven't seen you around. Good to hear from you. I think we're all caught up. Yep, we're all caught up. So squirrel moments here, guys. Sorry, so let's see where we're at with questions for me. We hit that one, and then the last one that I have essentially is what's your recommendation, like for at least a budgeting, for a beginning writer? What's your recommendation when it comes to their first book and the budget they should set aside for their first book? What's your recommendation for that?
Including audiobook or not including audiobook?
We'll do without audiobook, and if you want to write an audiobook, we'll put the second part for that.
Gotcha. So realistically, if you want to include a marketing budget with that, I would say about $5,000. $5,000 would be enough for you to get a really good dev editor. Because to me, developmental editing is the most important step. That is whenever you sit down with a developmental editor is like a continuity editor. Right. And that's somebody that is also a specialist in your specific genre. And they are going to sit down with you one-on-one and go through your entire book line by line. And they're going to be as invested in your story's success as you are. And they are not cheap. Right. And so you got to go through and you've got to go through with them and make that book shiny. But a dev editor is also not a line editor or a copy editor. So you still got to do those as well. So all of that. And then you also have beta readers. And so once all of that is done, that's about 3,000. And then, you've got your cover, which a good cover, I'd say about 500. And then formatting is about 250. And then I would say the rest would be a solid marketing budget for your release. You set a certain amount for your Amazon ad spend, as well as if you can do a Facebook ad spend, maybe even some Reddit and some Royal Road postings, and hit up this is for our genre, for Lit RPG and or cultivation, specifically. And so you hit up, you set a certain ad spend for those, spread it out however you feel the most comfortable, and make sure that you do the weekly or monthly postings on all of the group Facebook pages. Hit it up, and you're good to go. That should result in a pretty solid release. And it's going to give you a solid 5-star quality book, because there's a big difference between a 4-star and a 5-star book.
Interesting. Okay.
Like that jump from a 4-star quality book to a 5-star quality book, that's the difference between spending $1,000 and spending a lot more.
Gotcha.
It is an expensive jump.
Okay.
But that is spending that money on that dev editor, the copy editor, the line editor, the beta readers, because there's if you that's why getting a publisher really helps if you can, because if you can get a publisher, they'll pay those costs, so that way you don't have to. But if you have a publisher, if your book is successful, you have to split that success with somebody.
Right.
If you fronted all those costs yourself, and that book is a success, you will make that money back very quickly. It's just it's hard to know. You just don't know. If you don't, nobody has a crystal ball to see the future.
This is true. If not, everyone would be playing the lottery at the same time. And winning. But and for me, do I spend time thinking about that stuff? Yes and no. For me, again, like, you live off of this, so you are a full-time author. So absolutely, like, these are things for you to consider. But for me, as of now, as a part-time writer, and just trying to pump out my first book, I don't know. It's just I need to measure where to invest the money. Yes, I have the budget, but it's knowing where to invest the right amount of money at the right time, because I don't have the time. That's the issue. And even when I do have the time, I don't have the time. So that's just something that, again, anyone who's coming in and wanting to write a book, you have to consider, guys. As a part-time reader, you have to find the time and the not to cut corners, because those are different. Knowing risk and reward versus cutting corners are two different things, and I want people to know that, because it's not the same. Risk and reward versus cutting corners are two different things. I think a perfect example of that is, like, hey, for example, I read a lot of fantasy, a lot. So when, like, for example, when TJ asked me to be his dev editor for the Dying Breed, I was able to, any character he threw out there, I was like, hey, this is how this character does it work. This is how this character works. That's risk and reward versus cutting corners. If he hadn't done that with at all, some of his characters might not have flowed right, or just not have gotten that right, the right touches. So that's just some things that you guys have to remember, guys. And that's I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but that's essentially knowing when to do it, guys. That's a very important big step, at least for that. And then I think we got through most of our questions. We got all through my questions. Excuse me, and let me make sure no comments over here. No comments over here. Okay, cool. So I think we've reached a logical conclusion to this, and because unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry. Me and Mike love each other, and we continue, but he's got stuff, unfortunately, and I got stuff. I gotta work tonight. It is what it is. So we'll leave it there. If anyone has any questions, Mike, do you mind telling them where to find you? I'm going to post that right now, but do you mind telling the folks where to find you, some of your books?
Oh yeah, michaelheadauthor.com. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, just If you check,
I put the link right down, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, it's michaelheadauthor.com. That's got links to merchandise, my books, all kinds of stuff. I'm on both. I've got stuff with all my stuff's on Amazon except for the merchandise. Merchandise is on both the Mountain Dell Press website as well as the Legion Publishing website.
Alrighty, and guys, hey, so next week, I just want to. He was in here. If you guys didn't see him, Ryan, he's going to be on.
Is it Ryan DeBrun?
No, Ryan Maxwell.
Oh, Ryan Maxwell. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So bust his chops next week, just like he did to you.
Oh yeah, fine. I'm coming on.
So me, let me just I'll give you time and date, so you guys can look at the old calendar here. So me and Ryan are doing Friday, midday, same time. So same time, but on Friday, midday is when we're planning to do it. Yeah, and it's going to be the same format, guys. Just I'm essentially meeting up again with all the authors that I really liked and really connected with while at GuildFiCon. And it was he said something. Look, no, he didn't. Oh shit! Yeah, he did.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ryan, the person who just commented, guys, he's the one who's going to be on next week, and his book is Grand. Oh God, I'm going to butcher this again, and I'm trying not to. Grand Vending Systems. Yeah. So yeah, I try not to butcher his book, but yeah. So his is another part of the Lit RPG series, and his stuff is on Royal Road. But yeah, Mike will be on to bust his chops, guys.
I definitely will.
Yeah. But yeah, hey guys, thank you. If you whoever tuned in, really appreciate it. The last hour and a half really went like that. Me and Mike, you guys don't understand. Anytime military, I don't know what it is with the military. We find out we're military. We're like, hey, let's just start talking. We don't care what it is. We don't care when you served. It's just easy to talk to people, and talking to Mike really is a pleasure and a privilege, I believe, at least, to be able to be talking to you. With that, thanks. Really, really do appreciate it. But with that, guys, we're gonna wrap it up, and hope you guys have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend. Here in Italy right now, we're in the middle of a storm, so luckily the power didn't go out. I should have said that in the beginning. Hey, if I go out, it's not because I dumped you in the middle of it. So that's good to go. But yeah. All right, we'll do Ryan's favorite awkward wave, and we'll tune out from there. All right. Well, bye guys.
Bye.